We finished Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, and Maliki Yawmiddin. Notice here also there's a balance. And I want to start describing that to you from now. This surah is about balance. So on the one hand you have Allah Azza wa Jal being Rabb, and it's balanced with us being what? Abd. On the one hand Allah is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. How is that balanced? Maliki Yawmiddin. If Allah only describes Himself as Maliki Yawmiddin, we become depressed. So He gives us hope first. Then He gives us some fear. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim and then Maliki Yawmiddin. It's also beautiful that when you think of Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, in dunya you think of rizq and guidance and good things. In akhirah you think of Jannah. But on the other end of Jannah is Jahannam. But in the beautiful Fatiha there is no mention of Jahannam. What happened? You're pointing at me. I'm pointing at him. It's really confusing. Okay. Don't point at each other from here. It's really confusing. Okay? Okay. If you want water, just ask. I'll give it to you. Okay. Okay. What was I talking about? Something about Islam? Okay, Jannah and Jahannam. One of the beauties of the Fatiha, it has no mention of Jahannam. It mentions Allah's favor, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Allah's mercy and love, His care and love, and then He mentions Allah's justice. Not punishment, but justice. Those of you that have a little bit of background in philosophy, try to understand this point. Rahmah is on the positive side. Adhab is on the negative side. Justice is right in the middle, zero. Justice is exactly in the middle. You understand this point? Allah mentioned the positive and then He mentioned justice. He never mentioned the negative, and that's the beauty of Fatiha. Allah is teaching us actually by doing so that He will never punish anyone unless it is just. And He will never punish anyone unless they deny the rahmah of Allah, because He started with the positive. Allah says in the Quran, مَا يَفْعَلُ اللَّهُ بِعَذَابِكُمْ. What is Allah going to get out of punishing you? مَا يَفْعَلُ اللَّهُ بِعَذَابِكُمْ. Why do you think He wants to punish you? He doesn't. So many Muslims think that Allah wants to punish them. It is wrong. Allah does not want to punish anyone. He does not want to punish you. That's in Fatiha itself. Why do you think He started with Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim like that? You know? Which other Rabb is going to be Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim? You're not thinking of Rabbil Alameen as Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim when you start thinking Allah is going to throw me in Jahannam. You should not think like that. It's not a good way to think. But now that you have this beautiful conclusion about who Allah is, then Allah at the end of this, there's a switch that happens and Allah just decides to quote us. These are our words back to Allah. The first part was Allah talking to us. Now we are talking to Allah. What we are learning then in the Quran is Allah's way of teaching us to have a conversation with Him. The Quran is not just Allah talking to us. The Quran forces us to talk to Allah. Because it is Allah, it is not Allah who is saying Iyaka na'budu. Who is saying Iyaka na'budu? You and me, we're saying Iyaka na'budu. It is you alone that we give ourselves into slavery. We give ourselves into worship. Where we have that conclusion. And it's so beautiful that Allah did not command us and say, U'budu or fa'budu. Look at who Allah is. Alhamdulillah. The hamd belongs to Him. He's the Rabb, He's Ar-Rahman, He's Ar-Rahim, He's Maliki Yawmiddin. Therefore, you must become His abd. No, no, no. Therefore, I came to my own conclusion, Iyaka na'budu. If it was a command, that means Allah is forcing you. But Allah has said it in words that are from yourself. You know what that teaches you? Islam is a deen that believes in freedom of religion. You have to come to Allah yourself. You cannot be forced to come to Allah. La ikraha fi deen. You have to say yourself, Iyaka na'budu. And until you come to that conclusion yourself, not going to be told. You are not going to be forced. It's so incredible that that's just inside Iyaka na'budu. And the idea here is if somebody really truly thought about Allah, they would come to this conclusion. And they would just say, I'm ready, Ya Allah, I'm ready to become your slave. I am ready to become your slave. Iyaka na'budu. And why iyaka? Iyaka actually is called ikhtisas, adatul ikhtisas. I am giving myself in slavery only and only and only to you. We don't say we worship you, we say you, we worship. Is that normal or unusual? And what did I tell you about unusual? Only. That's where the only comes from. It is only you that we give ourselves into worship, into slavery. I want to explain to you now the difference between worship and slavery. Worship and slavery. A lot of times when we talk about ibadah in the Quran, or ubudiyya even in the Quran, na'budu, then we translate that as worship. You understand? But I want to go a step further. I want to say worship and slavery. I give myself in worship and I give myself in slavery. You have to understand the difference between both of them. When do we worship Allah? 5 times a day. We worship Allah 5 times a day. When are we slaves of Allah? All the time. All the time. When you are at Hajj, you are worshiping Allah. But when you're on the plane, you may not be worshiping Allah, you may be sleeping. When you're at work, you may not be worshiping Allah, you may be doing work. But even when you are doing work, you are still a what? Slave. Now the thing, this is very important, people. This is very important. If I only made the commitment to worship Allah, if that's all my commitment is, I'm just going to do what? Worship. Then worship is only a few hours, maybe 1 hour at the most in a day. That's it. 23 hours for me, 1 hour for Allah. The rest I do whatever I want. But actually, the idea here is that wudu covers ibadah and ubudiyya, which means I am worshipping Allah and I'm also accepting the fact that I am a slave. I came to that conclusion. I am ready to take you as Rabb and I'm ready to take myself as Abd. Now let's define a slave. A slave is someone who does not do whatever he wants, whatever she wants. A slave is someone who does what the master wants. That is the definition of a slave. What's the definition of a free person? The definition of a free person is, a free person does whatever he wants or she wants. That's a free person. A slave does what the master wants. A free person does whatever he or she wants. Simple definition, isn't it? So when you come before Allah and you say, I want to give up my will, I no longer want to do what I want to do what you want, you tell me, then you realize this is a big job. Then I have to do what Allah wants 24 hours a day. I have to do what Allah wants when I'm working, when I'm driving, when I'm sitting, when I'm standing, how I sleep, how I go to the bathroom, what I eat, how I eat. I have to figure out everything from what Allah wants, which means it's a big project. So I say to Allah, I can't do it. It's too much, I need your help. I can't do it on my own. So what do we say? IJJEKE ndihmë. We seek your help. This is too much, Ya Allah. I know I want to be your slave, but that's a big responsibility. I don't think I can do it myself. So I want to be your slave and I need your help. The job of a slave is to help the master. In every other relationship, the job of the slave is to help the master. That is why they have slaves, so they can get help. And here Allah wants you to be a slave, and then He says, why don't you ask me for help? SubhanAllah. The slavery to Allah cannot be compared to the slavery to anyone else, because every other master wants help, and this master wants to give you help. It's the opposite. Slavery is forced. This one is what? By choice. Didn't we say IJJEKE na'budu on our own? Didn't we make that choice? No other slave becomes a slave by choice. Nobody walks up to someone and says, hey, put some chains on me, I want to be a slave. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. It is always forced on them. This is the only slavery in existence that is done by choice. And there's a very powerful lesson in that, people. Please listen carefully. Allah Azza wa Jalla has created human beings in kabad. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي kabad. And kabad is used for the hard work of a slave. Because a slave has to do work all day. And he can't take a break. Because if he takes a break, the master hits him. So he keeps working. And that is called kabad. It is as though Allah is saying, Allah created human beings in the kind of labor that slaves do. Which means that whether you are a slave of Allah or not, you will always be a slave. Maybe you'll be the slave of money. Maybe you'll be a slave of fashion. Maybe you'll be a slave of your culture. Maybe you'll be a slave of your pride. You will always be a slave. But the only way you can be free from all these other slaveries is you become slave of Allah. Otherwise you'll always be a slave to something. It will always be there. The human being will never be out of kabad. Something will always get it. SubhanAllah. This is إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. We need your help in getting out of the slavery of everything else. There are too many things that keep making me want to become its slave. There are too many things that want to take over my life. I want you to be the one. إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Now here's the other beautiful thing, two beautiful things. First beautiful thing about إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. When we seek His help, there are lots of words in Arabic for help. Okay, istimdad is for help, istinsar is for help, isti'ana is for help. There are lots of words, you know. But why isti'ana? Why from the word aun? Aun means help. Let me give you a simple example and move along. Sometimes you're driving and you have a flat tire. Now you need to fix your car. You have a spare tire in the back. You put the jack and you are lifting your car. But you are not strong enough to lift your car. Somebody is walking by and you say, hey, could you help me a little bit? And they help you out. This is called aun. Aun is when you are trying already and then somebody came and what? Helped you. But the condition for aun is you were already trying yourself. When we ask Allah for help, Allah taught us the word that says you are already trying yourself and you realize my trying alone is not enough. I have to get Allah's help. I want you to understand the balance here. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. On the one hand, you have people who don't try at all. They don't make any effort. They say, Allah will help me. Why don't you get a job? Well, Allah didn't give me a job yet. Why don't you exercise? Well, Allah hasn't made me healthy. You don't get to blame Allah for that. You're lazy. And Allah will not help you until you what? Until you try, until you help yourself. That's inside nasta'een. You have to try yourself, then the help will come. You see, the Sahaba went into Badr. Then the angels came. The angels were not there ahead of time. You've been here since 3 o'clock. Where you guys been? It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work. You have to go yourself first. Then the help comes. You understand? Ibrahim alayhi salam is thrown in the fire first. Then it becomes what? Cool. It wasn't refrigerated ahead of time. It wasn't refrigerated ahead of time. You have to show your part first. Then the help of Allah comes. That's nasta'een. So some extremist people say, I don't have to do anything, Allah will do everything. This is wrong because of إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. What's the other extreme? The other extreme is I can do everything. I don't need Allah. I am so intelligent. This is why I get my promotion. This is why my business is successful. This is why I'm doing so well in everything else, because I don't need any help. I'm good on my own. I'm so smart. I'm so healthy. I'm so strong. I'm so this. I'm so that. This is the other extreme. The slave realizes he can't do anything on his own. So there are two parts to getting things accomplished in life. Your effort and Allah's help. And you are reminded of that every single day when you say, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. You're reminded of that every day, that balance. There are a lot of people who have that imbalance. The Fatiha addresses some of the most important problems that human beings face until the end of time. These problems. Now look at the next problem إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ solves. If I ask you for help, if I ask a young man over here, young man, could you help me? Help. All I say is, help. The young man is confused. Why is he confused? What do you want me to do? Do you want me to get you some water? You want me to buy you some socks? What do you want me to do? I didn't say anything. Now we said we need your help. إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. But did we say we need your help in what? We didn't. We left it. It's open. إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Why? First of all, you only say help and you don't explain yourself when the one you are talking to already knows. إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ means that Allah knows what you need. And Allah knows what you need better than you know. So you don't have to say it, Allah is taking care of it for you. Just say إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. The other thing that's beautiful here is there are so many things you need, that the list would be too long, Fatiha would become too long, so just say what? Help. Just say help. Because the list is too long. So Allah covers everything. It moves me so much. Why is إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ first and إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ second? Why not إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ? There are many reasons. I want to give you two of them. Two of them. First reason is, why were human beings created? To do ibadah or to seek help? To do ibadah. So your real mission first. Human beings should understand their real mission first. This is a very valuable lesson, people. There are people, Muslims today, who want Allah's help, but they don't want to do ibadah. They make dua to Allah for a promotion, for good degrees, for marriage. They go to Allah. They go to Allah when a family member's in the hospital. They want isti'ana, but they don't want to do what? But they don't want to be slaves. They don't want to be slaves. They don't want to give up the business that is against Allah's will. They don't want to give up the habits that are against Allah's will. But just give me some dua that I can get whatever I want. I want the إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ part. I don't want the إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ part. Allah said, you want my help? You do the first part first. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Very important lesson for Muslims. Now here's the second lesson from إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. It's also beautiful. When we become Allah's slaves, that is for Allah, and only for Allah. When we ask for help, who is that for? Ourselves. So إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ is for Allah, and إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ is for ourselves. And what is for Allah should be mentioned first, and what is for you should be mentioned second. And also important because when you do what is for Allah, then automatically Allah will take care of you. It's beautiful. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. This is our relationship with Allah. Now we need Allah's help in lots of things. I want to give you a silly example again so you appreciate this lesson of اهْدِنَا الصِّرَاطَ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. I gotta keep track of time. Oh my goodness. You guys okay until we go till 11? You guys okay? You alright? Because I want to finish Fatiha at least. At least some things about Fatiha. Because the juicy part I leave until the end. I didn't even give you the juicy part yet. So, okay. So here's the thing. There's a master and there's a slave. The master comes, says, hey, you're my slave. He says, okay. And then they're just standing there. After about an hour, the slave says, so, you want to go get some coffee? Or? What is the definition of a slave? Do you remember? A slave does what the master wants. But a slave can only do what the master wants if he knows what the master wants. If the slave has no idea, if the master never told him, he has no idea what to do. He's confused. I just turned to Allah and you just turned to Allah in the Fatiha and said, Ya Allah, we are slaves. Ready. We signed up. Now that we signed up, what do we need? Instructions. If Allah doesn't give me instructions, what's the point of calling you a slave? You don't even know what your master wants. That actually means you're still free. Because you're still doing what you want. So you need some instructions. And when instructions come from Allah, they are called huda. When instructions come from Allah, they are called huda. So Allah says, He teaches us to say, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Guidance. We ask for guidance. I want you to understand the relationship between guidance. Slave cannot be a slave until he has guidance from the master. Because without guidance, he doesn't know what to do, which would defy the definition itself. So to be a abd necessarily means to seek hidayah, to seek guidance. These two things are inseparable, which is why in the Quran, over and over and over and over again, Allah mentions Rabb, Allah mentions Huda. Allah mentions Rabb, Allah mentions Huda. Over and over again. Sabbih isma rabbika al-a'la. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى عسى أن يهديني ربي سواء السبيل يهديني ربي وَقُلْ عَسَىٰ أَنْ يَهْدِيَنِي رَبِّي لِأَقْرَبَ مِنْ هَذَا رَشَدًا. يَهْدِيَنِي رَبِّي لِأَقْرَبَ مِنْ هَذَا رَشَدًا. Hidayah, guidance and Rabb. Guidance and Rabb, over and over again. كَلَّا إِنَّ مَعِيَ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينِي. My Rabb is with me, He will guide me. Rabb and guidance are inseparable in the Quran. And I hope you understand the relationship now between these two things. So we ask Allah to guide us. Ihdina. Guide us. But guide us to what? He says as-sirat al-mustaqim. But He didn't say ihdina ila as-sirat al-mustaqim, or ihdina lis-sirat al-mustaqim, or ihdina bis-sirat al-mustaqim. He said ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Actually in the Quran, I know not a lot of you know Arabic, and that's okay. Sometimes you say, in English we say, guide us to the straight path. You notice the word to the straight path. In the Arabic you can say ila, you can say li, and you can say guide us using the straight path, ihdina bis-sirat al-mustaqim, but none of them are there. None of those words are there. It is just directly ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. So what does that mean? Pay attention to this part, it's very powerful. If I want to go back to my hotel, I ask one of you, how do I get there? And you go over here, go over there, you go over there, and jump in the water. And you give me directions. Now you guided me, you gave me directions, but did you come with me or I'm on my own? I'm on my own. Because I have your directions, I wrote them down, it's good enough. That's good enough. When you give directions to a destination, that is called ila. هَدَيْتُكَ إِلَيْهِ, I got you to it. When you hold someone's hand and you take them all the way to their hotel, then you use lam. هَدَيْتُكَ li. Lam. We say Alhamdulillahi alladhi hadana ila hada or li hada? Li hada. Al-lamu lil-ghaya. We say in Arabic. You know what that means? That means we get to Jannah and we say Alhamdulillah, the one who guided us all the way to this. In other words, He was with us the entire time. He didn't just say, take a right here, take a left there, you get there. No. He was with us the entire time. His ma'iyya was with us. And He took us all the way to Jannah. So lam is used when you get to your destination. Ila is used when you just get the directions. Ba is used when you tell someone, use this car to go. Use this and use that to go. Allah used none of these in Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Why? Because when you use none of them, it actually means you are using all of them at the same time. The principle of Arabic is if you use none of them, then actually you are using all of them, because you cannot use all of them together. So if you want to use all of them together, you use none of them. That's the principle. So every one of them can be implied. So then we are learning three things about guidance. I want you to understand what these three things are. Number one, we are asking Allah for directions. You can call it an easy Arabic, easy English. We are asking Allah for knowledge. We're asking Allah for knowledge. But knowledge is not enough. Second, we're asking Allah's company. We don't want to go on the straight path by ourselves. We want to go on the straight path while Allah is supporting us. So He never hangs up on the phone. He's always with. You understand? That's the second. Then the third, we are saying that this path itself should make it easy to take the next step. Ya Allah, guide me using the straight path. You know, like a car, you use a car to go on the road, the car helps you travel. Allah is teaching us in this ayah, the road itself will help you. The road itself will push you. You know, like one of those conveyor belt things where you stand and it's moving on its own? It will keep pushing you. If you're on it, it will keep making you get progress. Make progress on its own. So all three meanings of Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. How does it translate to sirat? How is as-sirat? Anybody know? Path. But you know, in Arabic, as-sirat can only be used for a straight path. If a road is like this, you can't call it sirat. If a road is like that, you can't call it sirat. You can only call it sirat if it is straight. But if it means straight, then why did Allah say as-sirata what? Al-mustaqim, because al-mustaqim means straight. As-sirat is already straight. If you say to somebody, Ihdina as-sirat, That means guide us to the straight path already. Then why add al-mustaqim? Because al-mustaqim is not just straight, it is straight up. Al-mustaqim does not mean straight, it means what? Straight up. Because it comes from qama or istaqama, to stand up. Not to go forward, but to go up. From qiyam. Qiyam means what? Standing. Allah talks about the shopkeeper who had, you know, the old times where you see some of the street markets over here, they have the weighing machine and they hold it in their hand and there's oranges on this side and there's the weight on that side, but the guy has to hold it what? وَزِنُوا بِالْقِسْطَاسِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. Don't hold it like this and cheat your customer. Hold it straight, you understand? But it's straight, lying down or up? It's straight up. I am asking Allah for guidance on a path that heads which way? Straight up. That means this path, the longer I travel it, the further I get from dunya. Is that true? And the higher my level becomes, the higher my rank becomes, the closer I get to higher and higher levels. Isn't that true? And by the way, the higher you are, the more danger you're in. If you're only 1 foot high and you fall, you're okay. If you're 20 feet high and you fall, you're not so okay. If you're 100 feet high, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, you understand? In other words, the person who is traveling on this road for a long time is in less danger or more danger? They're in more danger. Sometimes people wonder, why are these ulama crying all the time? Why is the shaykh crying? He's such a good guy, he's always in the masjid. He's always reciting Quran. He never watches movies, he doesn't do the things I do. Why is he crying all the time? I should be crying. You don't realize, the higher you go, the scarier it gets. So they realize that, so they're crying more. Because it's scary up there. And is it guaranteed that you will not fall? Is there a guarantee? No. So we say to Allah, guide us to the straight path that shoots up. Sirat is also used for a wide road, so multiple can get on the same time. You don't have to push someone else to make room for yourself. Hey, try to get to Jannah, you don't have to do that. SubhanAllah. So now we're heading up this path. But you know, the higher up you go, the more difficult it gets. The more difficult it gets. And Allah says to us that whoever Allah decides to guide, He will open his chest for Islam. He will make him calm. He won't be nervous anymore. And so when you're going up this path, you need some help. And the help will come in Sirat al-Ladina I'll talk to you about that inshallah after my next break. So this break is the sister's turn, and I'm going to go towards the middle that way. I don't know how I will get there. But that will be because none of them stop me. But I'll say salam as I go. Inshallah ta'ala. 5-minute break. Go. Live your life. Be happy. Let me take water with me.